I'm Dr. Michael Scott. I'm an Associate Professor in Classics and Ancient History here at the University of Warwick. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is the experience of going to the theatre in the ancient world compared to the experience of going to the theatre today. Now, when we go to the theatre today, we think, well, it's often an evening activity. It's often something we do in darkness. We in the audience sit in darkness and all our attention is focused on the stage. It's also something we do for entertainment. It's like relief. It's a social activity. It's most definitely not a religious or a political activity for us. And as an audience, we are generally expected to be fairly passive. We applaud at the end of the play or perhaps at the interval, but we're certainly not supposed to be booing, shouting or throwing stuff at the stage if we agree or disagree with what's being said. And there are the key differences compared to the ancient world. In the ancient world, the plays happened at a very particular time of year. You couldn't just go to the theatre any day or night of the week. In fact, theatre was condensed in ancient Athens, in Greece, the home of drama, to one particular festival. 5 days, in one part of the year in March, when theatre was pretty much the only thing happening in the city of Athens. Now that's crucial to get your head around. This wasn't an option. Right? This was an absolute must-attend event. In Athens, for those 5 days, everything else stopped. The law courts were shut down, no business was transacted. It's said that even they let the prisoners out of jail so that they too could go to the theatre. This was something that everyone was supposed to lay down whatever they were doing and focus for 5 days on drama. Now that's a curious idea. We go to a play maybe that lasts, 2.5 hours, 3 hours maybe? No, not here. These would be entire days of watching plays back to back for 5 days. That's an incredible sense of focus and complete immersement in the dramatic world. But the differences go even further because crucially these 5 days were not just entertainment. This was a religious festival in honour of the gods. Drama was a way of honouring the gods in ancient Greece, and particularly the god Dionysus. Now, Dionysus was a curious character. He's a god you don't want to get on the wrong side of. He's the god of wine, the god of partying, the god of betwixt and between, but also someone who can turn on you at the last minute. You have to worship him with all your might. And so the first day of this festival was spent with the entire population of Athens in religious dances, processions and drinking in honour of the god Dionysus as they processed through the city, making their way slowly to his sanctuary where the theatre was also placed. Imagine that, an entire day of revelry, of drinking, of ecstasis. The Greek word ecstasis means standing outside of yourself. It's where we get our word ecstasy from. And that's the state you had to be in if you wanted to worship the god Dionysus. So after an entire day of revels, people would pile in to the theatre. But a play wouldn't start then, no, because there were still key political things that had to happen. Theatre in the ancient Greek world was also as much political as it was religious. First off, the generals, the military generals of the city would march across the stage and pour libations, offerings to the gods. Then the tribute, the money taken by the Athenians from their allies in the Athenian Empire, their subject city-states, the money that had been extracted from them that was effectively protection money. The Athenian Empire was little more in some ways than a protection racket. All that money that had been brought back to Athens was then also paraded across the stage. Then the orphans. Those whose parents, particularly their fathers, had died in war fighting for the city were also paraded across the stage with the statement that the state, the Athenian state, would therefore henceforth look after them and their education and their upbringing. They were then given special seats in the front row of the theatre, and only then did the plays begin. So theatre in ancient Athens was a very curious community and communal experience. Everyone was expected to attend. Something like 10,000 people could cram into the theatre. That's the biggest single gathering of people in the entire city, much bigger than their actual political assembly over on the Pnyx Hill. Everyone there were Athenian citizens, but there were also representatives from the allies and city-states of the Athenian Empire. It was held in March, which was good sailing time, so lots of people from outside Athens as well. This was a moment when Athens showed itself off to the world. And just imagine how it must have stuck in the throat of those representatives when their money, their tribute that they'd had to pay, was paraded across the stage. And the plays themselves were as part of a competition. So each playwright, each tragedian, would produce 3 plays, 3 tragedies, and then a satyr play, a bawdy play, a bit of light relief at the end of the day after 3 tragedies. And after 3 days of 3 tragedies and a satyr play, you would then have a winner. One of the tragedians would be pronounced the winner. So this was a competition, this was political theatre, this was religious worship, all as part of the largest single gathering of Athenians in their calendar. This was a moment when Athens came together to show off its best, but also to reflect and think critically about itself. The content of the plays is not easy reading often. Even the comedies that can be bawdy, light-hearted, extraordinarily verbose at times, actually they have a very serious point. In tragedy, the issues are things that still are relevant to us today. Justice, love, wrongdoing, the right kind of rulership. Every tragedy made an Athenian question whether their beliefs, their ideas, their values were right. And in comedy, comedy sought to challenge those in the audience, those Athenian citizens who had taken a front row in the politics of the city, and challenged them not only to sit there and watch having the piss taken out of themselves in front of everyone else, but also challenge every Athenian to ask the question, is someone getting above their station? Here in our democracy, where everyone is equal, is anyone becoming too much like a tyrant ruler? Comedy made fun of people in order to keep the democracy functioning. Athens spent something like 1/10 of its GDP on this 5-day festival. Imagine us doing something like that today. It's like having the Olympics every year. But that amount of money underlines the importance that the Athenians attached to this particular moment in their calendar. Drama was not just entertainment. It was an absolutely fundamental part of what being an Athenian was all about.